Should millennials know more about our most recent conflicts? Or is it time for old people to stop talking about the war? Well, joining us now is former Ofsted Chief Inspector Sir Michael Wilshaw, who says it's imperative it's taught in schools, and Freddie Bentley from the first series of Channel 4's The Circle, who says it's not good for children's mental health. So why do you think that, Fred?
Firstly, I want to start off by saying that I find it very, obviously it was a hard situation in World War II, and I don't want anyone to think that I'm being disrespectful in that way whatsoever. However, I will stand by the point that I don't think it's as educational in the way that there's so many problems going on in the world at the moment, like Brexit, that's not taught in schools, and climate change, which is a situation that I feel like we should be aware of. And, you know, when I left school, I felt like it hit me like a ton of bricks because I didn't know anything in general life. I felt like I was going out to the world. I've completed my GCSEs. I felt like I knew that what I was doing in life. Then all of a sudden, it hit me because I didn't know how to save for a mortgage. So I feel like instead of you know, focusing so much on our history and holding on to this past, that we can let it go a little bit. I'm not saying get rid of it totally, but let go of it a little bit and replace it with a subject that is going to be beneficial to us in the future.
More relevant.
Yeah, more relevant.
Good point, isn't it, Michael? Does it really matter? We know the dates of when World War II started and finished, compared with how to budget your domestic life, get a mortgage, get your first job. Why does it matter?
It matters, as other major events in history matter. We know what happened and we know the dates. Millions of people have died. 50 million people died in the Second World War to fight fascism, to fight tyranny. People who wanted to take away people's right to freedom, to the vote, to the franchise. That's why people should know about the Second World War, the First World War, the conflicts that have taken place, and the fight for freedom that you and I enjoy.
And I totally get that, but I don't think it needs to be put in such a young way to young children, like mentally, in their mental health, to be told that this certain amount of people died for you. I think it's a lot of...
You mustn't exaggerate. I mean...
No, I don't think I am exaggerating. I remember learning it as a child and thinking, my God, it's so intense.
Children need to know that it's a dangerous world out there.
Of course they need to know, but I don't think...
that crossing the road is sometimes dangerous.
Of course.
They need to know that if they get too fat, there are obesity issues now.
But of course, but mental health is on the rise completely, and I don't think encouraging death or telling people how many people died in a world war is going to help someone in the future.
You were saying you think there are more tangible things to learn, but isn't one of the most important things about school and about parenting is that you arm your children with the ability to cope in a situation that they may face down the line, and learning stuff like this that might seem like it's not great for their mental health is actually allowing them to understand that there could be a situation in the future where a neighbour turns on another neighbour, or somebody that someone doesn't like, someone's politics, and they turn on...
Standing up to bullies.
Yeah, you would always stand up to a bully, wouldn't you?
Of course. I'm someone that can hold my own and...
Yeah, unquestionably, but in World War II, this is exactly what happened. It's what the Nazi Party managed to do.
Yeah.
And to all sorts of different people.
And, you know, we've got to learn from history. You know, that age-old saying that people who don't learn from history tend to repeat it and tend to repeat the mistakes. What we're seeing, you just had Luciana Berger on here, I noticed. We're seeing the rise of populism, we're seeing the rise of nationalism, we're seeing the rise of extremism in our own country, across Europe and the rest of the world. And those things start conflict, start war. And youngsters should understand what happened in the 1930s Germany, which started the Second World War.
And I totally get that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't stop learning about World War II, but I think there's so many more things that's going on right now.
Didn't you learn about the Second World War when you were at school?
I did. We learned a little bit in primary school.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Not in secondary?
Not in secondary, no. Which brings me on to the point of in 2014...
I'll find out the name of your school. I'll send an inspection.
That's fine, because I thought that's what I was going to go on to, actually. In 2014, when you was... in charge of Ofsted, obviously, in 2014, it wasn't crucial that we learnt about World War II in secondary school. So if that is the case, and you really do stand by your decision of that we have to learn about World War II, why would you let that go ahead? I know it's in charge of the government, but, you know, you could have come back and really tried to fight that.
Ofsted doesn't design or set the national curriculum, the government does. And you need to know that now the government is saying that the great majority of youngsters should start study something called the EBAC, which includes humanities and subjects, which includes history,
Rather than
which
A-levels,
includes the
yeah.
Second World
It's a-
War.
it's a different
but
sort of
even if that wasn't the case, youngsters should understand our history and how our society...
Lots of people have been getting in touch with this. I just think that, you know, the majority equally saying this because they were boys your age, younger than you, boys at school that went and fought in that World War. You know, young men who were facing sort of the D-Day landings and that were vomiting. They were so scared about what was going to happen ahead of them.
Absolutely, and funny enough, I went out for the anniversary of the D-Day landings. There were lots of young people there who said, weirdly, it actually helped some of their mental health issues because it put into context some of their worries what they went through.
1939 to 1945.
I don't know. Yeah,
well, you do now.
I do now. But I mean, I didn't know, and I think that was another thing in school. I felt like at such a young age, like where we're learning it, numbers don't stick all the time. You know.
I think the majority of our viewers feel like there are some numbers that need to stick.
Stick.
We do appreciate you coming in and sharing your thoughts, though. But 1939 to 1945.
I've got it.
Every day's a school day. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming in.
Thank you.
Dearest Mother and Father, I'm glad to say that I've had the most wonderful journey. The only problem was the boy in front of us wet himself. He was called Michael. When we got to the hall in Slapton, we waited to be chosen. The billeting officer looked in our hair for nits and lice. I and my friend, Agnes, both got chosen by Mr. and Mrs. Reeds. We drove to their house. I got out of the car and looked up. It was an enormous house. I am staying with my friend Agnes. They have a big dog called Moosey. My new home is fantastic. Me and Agnes have a gigantic bed that is so soft and comfy. We also have our own bathroom. Mr. and Mrs. Reeds are very nice. They have made me feel at home. Mr. and Mrs. Reeds live on a farm, so today we went to explore it. I saw some sheep, pigs, cows and horses. At first I thought the sheep were rabbits, but Mr. Reeds told me they were sheep. I am feeling homesick a little bit, but I am having so much fun. I am going to a school called Waverley Hills. It is a primary school. My new school is very good. The only problem is I can't understand anyone. Me and Agnes have learnt a lot at school. We have learnt how to add 10 and 20. Last night we couldn't find Agnes because she was sleeping under the bed. The good thing is there are no air raid sirens in the countryside and there are no blackouts. The worst part about being in the countryside is because they have found out that I wear brown paper underneath my clothes. I hope everything is well at home. Lots of love, Harriet.